95.3 WBCK now presents Coach's Corner, live from Lakeview Ford. For over 6 decades, this has been your number one source for all local sports information. Coach's Corner is proudly presented by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now, here's your host, Bill Broderick.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, in the big chair once again on WBCK for another week of Coach's Corner. Coming to you live from downtown Battle Creek at Lakeview Ford on the Motor Mile. For more than 6 decades, Coach's Corner has been talking to the city high school coaches about the week in sports. We will be talking to each of the city hoop coaches about this week in hoops once again. But before we continue, here is the Lakeview Ford Coach's Corner scoreboard. We had a full schedule of games this week now that all the city teams are back from on the court after the holidays. On Tuesday, in a city rivalry game, Battle Creek Central ran past Harper Creek 68-43. In other games on Tuesday, Penfield beat Coldwater 71-60 in a key Interstate 8 conference game. Lakeview lost to Schoolcraft, and St. Phil fell to Hillsdale Academy. On Friday, in our game of the week in the best small school rivalry in the area, St. Phil held off Climax Scots 47-41. Also on Friday in the city, Lakeview beat Matawan 54-52. Penfield stayed unbeaten in the league and beat Hastings 44-30. Harper Creek lost to Coldwater 71-51. And Battle Creek Central lost to state-ranked Kalamazoo Central 72-34. High school sports fans have more to look forward to this weekend. If they want to see the All-City Boys Swim Meet, it's going on right now at Battle Creek Central. And Battle Creek Central is also hosting the All-City Wrestling Meet today. So one-stop shopping over at Battle Creek Central. You can see both All-City meets, boys swimming and wrestling over there today, going out all day. We will be back with our first coach of the morning after this commercial. This is Coach's Corner on WBCK 95.3 FM.
95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our first coach of the morning, Coach Robbie Hatton of the Penfield Panthers. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
Penfield had a full week games this week. They started out on Tuesday back in the Interstate 8 Conference once again, and the Panthers came away with a 71-60 win at home against a Coldwater team that can be tough against some squads, and you guys jumped on them a little bit earlier. You're up 37-27 by halftime, and then rolled to the win after that. Talk about that, how that game kind of started for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Coldwater plays hard. That team plays extremely hard for their coach, and we were a little rusty. We hadn't played in 15, 16 days. It took us a little bit to get going. And once we get in rhythms, we were all right. It just, we're a streaky team at times, and, it took us a little bit, but once we got going, we were all right. They made some big shots in the second half. Fourth quarter, they made some big shots at the end to narrow it and make it a little closer. So, but again, credit to them. They played really hard, really well coached. Had a good game plan for us.
Johnny Lake had another big game for you at 27 points, including 4 triples and 8 rebounds and 6 assists. Brady Connolly had 13 points. Coldwater, after that game, dropped to 3 and 7. Julian Thompson had 16 points for them, and Gavin Taylor had 12. Looked like Johnny Lake got a little busy from the outside of the arc, which isn't normally his game, but I guess if you're going to give him the shot, he's going to take it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is part of Johnny's game, to be honest, is he's done a really good job of working on that side of his game this off season. He wants to play college basketball, and he knows that, at the next level, he's probably not a 5. So that's one thing he's got to work on, and colleges are starting to notice that his outside game is extremely improved. If you're going to give Johnny the shot, he's going to take it. So, again, it's part of his game that he's really put the work in, and, it just makes him that much more dangerous to guard.
Then Penfield stayed in the conference play last night, playing Hastings, and came away with a 44-30 win. You and I chatted last night about how that was kind of an odd game. The game was tied 2-2 after the first quarter, and Penfield only had 8 points by halftime, but those 8 points were good enough to have an 8-3 lead at halftime. Have you ever been a part of a game like that before?
Never. Never. It was crazy. We were talking last night. It's like there was somebody sitting on the rim just swatting every ball away. We weren't getting bad looks. I mean, we were missing open layups, missing free throws, couldn't hit a deep shot. And it was contagious. And, I think once halftime came along and, I think the kids thought I was going to come in and just rip them. And I didn't. It's not that wouldn't have been productive at all. We, as a team, we just said, hey, listen, we just got to keep playing our game. Everybody take a deep breath. If you're there, if it's open, shoot it. If we miss, we miss. Not the end of the world. I think second half we kind of responded, and it kind of opened our eyes a little bit. First half Johnny got into foul trouble. Within the first minute he picked up 2 fouls. Didn't agree with one of them, but it's not here nor there. I think it opened our eyes a little bit that hey, maybe we got to start repping a couple more lineups without Johnny Lake, just to make sure that we're still moving and we're prepared for those moments. So it was a great coaching moment for us to learn or to realize that. But yeah, no, it was a unique situation having that many points. But credit our kids. We've really my biggest pet peeve as a coach is defense, because defense travels and. They get a little frustrated with me because, I'm so detail-oriented on defense, and I want to make sure our effort is always there. And it was the whole game. Second half, Hastings, they made a couple shots there, but, we held them with under 30 points, most of the game. And, like I said, our kids were just flying all over the court. And we've been spending a lot of time on it, just talking about rotations and our scramble mode and talking and communicating. And it was on point last night, and, it made me really happy as a coach.
Well, Johnny did get going, like you said, in the second half, had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists for you. Peyton Burlington came up big. You probably had to lean on him a little bit more with Johnny Lake being in foul trouble. He had 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. And Calvin Pazins took over some of the rebounding duties with Johnny on the bench. He had 11 rebounds to lead you there. And the big thing is that Penfield stayed undefeated in the Interstate 8 Conference. A great start for the Panthers in the league, and you guys had that big start before the holidays, but putting 2 more in the win column after the holidays, how big is that for you guys?
Absolutely. We just want to keep stacking days. That's what we tell our kids, stack days. We can't be complacent. We can't be happy with just beating Hastings last night. We stacked the day. Now it's Sunday. We're coming back, getting ready for Northwest. So, it's key for us. Every game is crucial. Every game is important. We saw that last year in the league when we were able to come back at the end of the year and share the league title. So, we just got to keep our composure. We got to keep taking it day by day, not looking ahead. Our league games are obviously the most important. We want to make sure that if we can win the league outright this year, we have to take every game at a time and, just keep building it up. So, but yeah, no, I'm real happy with our kids. Last night Peyton really stepped up, picked up some of the offensive scoring when Johnny was out for a little bit. And then, Calvin, he struggled a little bit shooting last night, but I told him, I said, hey, I know he's upset. Calvin wants to contribute on the offensive side, but that was his best defensive game he's ever played. I mean, he did a great job covering the gaps. He was a shot blocking force down low. Best game he's rebounded. I said, the ball's not always going to go in the bucket. We just got to figure out how we can contribute, even when that happens. So Calvin Pastons had an outstanding game last night for us.
So next up for Penfield, like you said, you're staying in the league and you play on the road at Jackson Northwest on Tuesday. And then you go have a couple of non-conference games at the end of the week next week, Adrian and Springport. Jackson Northwest can be a tricky team for some people. I was checking things out last night, and they played Marshall and came up with a win. And Michigan State star Carson Cooper was in the stands watching his little brothers play. And Jackson Northwest, it will be a challenge for you guys to keep that undefeated record in the league. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they pose a different threat than most teams in the league do, just because of their speed and their driving ability. So we got a lot of work to do Sunday, Monday. They're coming in 1 loss in the league. They're trying to keep it tight and not make this a two game gap. So it's just we got to again take it day by day. They have a couple nice pieces. They have a freshman who's very good, and then they have a couple other pieces. Dennis number 2, he's really good. And they have a couple guys that can shoot the outside shot. So we just got to get ready for them. We got to watch we got to watch some more tape today. Just to prepare and get ourselves ready so we know what they're going to do and what they're trying to accomplish with their sets and, how they're going to defend us. I think Johnny's due for another big game and Peyton's going to have some mismatches where he can, get some points down low and Calvin will stretch the floor for us. And then our role players have got to step up and contribute in ways that they can help this team. It's another nice battle that we have coming up, and we're excited to play a team like Northwest. On the road is nice. I like playing road games. Gets us out of our comfort zone a little bit.
Well, we'll look forward to talking about that game next week when we get back together. Appreciate you calling in, Coach. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, Bill.
That's it we'll be here with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Mike.
Imagine if today was the day your idea changed someone's life. Imagine if you could help someone pay for college, help your community build a new playground, or help a child make it to that dream competition. With GoFundMe, it's all possible. GoFundMe is the world's #1 fundraising platform trusted by over 190 million people. Every week, ordinary people meet their goals and do extraordinary things. Your ideas matter. GoFundMe isn't just for emergencies. Want to raise money for your kid's soccer team or raise funds for a small business, a creative project, or event? GoFundMe helps you turn ideas into reality. And help adds up. Fundraisers you start for someone else raise up to 5 times more. So think right now, who could use your help? Change rarely comes from waiting. It comes from someone deciding, today I'll start. Don't wait for someone else to bring change. Today, start your fundraiser in just minutes at GoFundMe.com. That's GoFundMe.com to start your fundraiser. GoFundMe.com. This is a commercial message brought to you by GoFundMe.
Corner on WBCK. Brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner with our next Coach of the Morning. We're here with Coach Kyrie Watkins, assistant coach at Harper Creek. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Doing real good. Kyrie is coming off the bench to sub in for Coach Matt Bowling. You guys are running a youth tournament over at Harper Creek today, and it's good to get those kiddos on the court. That should be a fun time over there, right?
Yep. We'll be there all day starting at 11, and we'll end to about 8 or 9 tonight.
That's great, and that helps with the youth program over there, and where they continue to have you. And that made it tough when you get into that hole and then you don't see the shots coming down. The confidence is lacking, and that's kind of what you need right now is some confidence, right?
Yeah, we cut the lead. I want to say in the second quarter we had cut that lead down to about 6 maybe, and then transition layups, that really got us for them. We were successful in the half court versus them defensively, but when they got out in transition, they opened the lead up. I know Lee Campbell had 17 in the first half. That's never a good sign if you give somebody 17 in the first half. But, again, once we got to that second half, struggles to just score.
Yep. You had a sophomore step up for you. Keeson Trevino had 11 points. Trenton Roy had 7 points. Tegan Turnbull and Maddox McCarty each had 6. Keeson plays a little bit of the JV games, and then he's been coming up on varsity, and he's an intriguing prospect for you guys.
Yeah, actually leading into those games, he's been our leading scorer the last 2 games. And he's been doing really good, just installing that confidence in him. He's not afraid to shoot the ball, working every day, getting better defensively. It's definitely something to look forward to for the future.
Then Harper Creek was back on the court last night, and you guys got back in the league play and played Coldwater, a team that you butt heads against the last several years a lot, but fell short 71-51. Talk about what happened early in that game, and did you guys get in the hole again a little bit last night?
Yeah, we actually did start off the first quarter. We were down, and then we made a push, and then through the whole second quarter, it was a one-possession game. We're going back and forth. We actually shot the ball better than normal yesterday. We hit a few threes. We made some free throws, and again, those have been our struggles all year. But in that first half, it was a back-and-forth game. It was a good game. And then in the second half, shots stopped falling.
Okay, well, that seems to be the Achilles heel for Harper Creek a little bit. Dylan Eversole had 12 points for you last night. Maddox McCarty again, consistent for you at 11. Trenton Ray at 10. And that's after tying or sharing the Interstate 8 Conference lead championship last year. It's a bummer when you lose in the league and you fell to 3-7 on the year, and now you're kind of looking at goals of trying to have a bigger second half. Is that kind of the mindset you kind of flip the page right now and make sure that we're playing for the second half now?
Yeah, we're trying to let them know, these league games are the most, important games. If you take control of your league games, then that's always a good sign, especially with this young team trying to, get them to understand, how important the league is. It's always a battle with Coldwater. They always play hard. They knock down some shots. And like you said, just hopefully in the second half of the season, we make that push, we turn it around, and hopefully some shots start falling. Like you said, we're open, we get the good shots. It's just we need them to fall.
Playing at home next week, a couple league games, Parma Western, and then you got that big rivalry game, Marshall, on Friday, and that's always a lot of fun. Getting some home cooking next week and playing a couple games at home, Parma Western and Marshall. What are you looking forward to next week?
Well, like you said, we're back home finally. So it's always fun playing at home, and looking forward to the Parma game. But that Marshall game, that's the one we licking our chops. We want to get that game. They put us out last year in the district championship, which was a great game. They're pretty good this year too. But hopefully the kids come out, compete, take that game as a rivalry game, and come out and knock down some shots.
There you go. That's the key. I mean, you can't, that's the best coaching. Hey guys, hit some shots, and things will happen, right?
Hey, it makes it so much easier.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to talking about that game next week. Appreciate you coming on down here, Coach, and we'll talk to you about some Harper Creek and hopefully a win next week.
All right. Thanks for having me, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Mike Rowe on the Skills Gap and how a student organization known as Skills USA is trying to fill it.
So the thing about Skills USA that's so cool, and the reason that my foundation has supported it for years, is that it's deliberately and intentionally focused on celebrating a skill. 3 million jobs right now exist in the trades and transportation and commerce. The skills gap is real. Training kids and getting them excited to do the jobs that exist ought to be job one. Skills USA does that in a big way. It's about excellence and competition and being good at what you do, and eventually through all of that, learning who you are. Skills USA is working.
Learn more at microworks.com and skillsusa.org.
Battles aren't won solely on the field. That's a common misconception. Battles are won within, over enemies of fear, enemies of doubt. In that place where promises are kept. Promises to oneself.
This is a physical training event.
Promises to one's community.
Helping people move debris out of their house.
Promises to one's country. In the heart of every Marine, you'll find a promise. A promise forever kept. A promise of battles won.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner with here our next coach of the morning, Coach Kimber of the St. Phil Fighting Tigers. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
St. Phil had a couple games this week. They started out early in the week and played Hillsdale Academy and ran into a really good squad in that contest. Hillsdale Academy came away with a 68-42 win. Hillsdale Academy went to 7-2 after that win. I'll talk about struggles in that game, and you guys really just couldn't get started, right?
Yeah, no, we really couldn't get going. I mean, they took the lead early, and they just kept building on top of that. You know, I feel like having a 16-day layoff or whatever that was between the Union City game before Christmas and that game didn't help us. So we had some rust to get off the tires. But yeah, you know, credit to them. They came out and they out-physicaled us, and no, they had a lot of second chance baskets and a lot of points off of turnovers, and it was a perfect storm for them. We shot the ball like crap, and they executed, and we didn't.
We had Jackson Diswick had 17 points for you guys in that game. Carter Diswick at 10, and Lincoln at 8. Hillsdale Academy has a young phenom, Jackson Huffman. He had 24 points. And he's only an 8th grader. Yeah,
he's a heck of a player. He's about 6'8". I understand he's got an uncle that played at Michigan State, and I know the family a little bit based off of my dad going to high school with his grandfather, and he's got a long, you know, history of athleticism in the family. So I know he's going to be a problem for us for the next we might not see him again this year, but the next 4 years.
If he stays there.
Yeah.
Well, St. Phil got back rolling last night in our game of the week, and what I call one of the best small school rivalries in the area. And St. Phil went over to visit Climax Scots. Always a great environment when those two teams get going. And St. Phil came away with a 47-41 win. But that was kind of an odd game, a roller coaster kind of game last night, and hanging out at the end is all that really counts. You get the win, but getting there was a challenge, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. We kind of limped our way in there down the stretch. You know, things were going our way in the third quarter, and then it just kind of like snowballed and got a little stagnant on the offensive end. We were looking to, you know, I think we had a 14-point lead going into the fourth quarter. We were looking to stay aggressive, and you know, we weren't necessarily getting bad looks, but we weren't getting, I don't think, the best looks inside. Would love to see, you know, some of those shots go down, but I mean, it is what it is. Shots weren't going. They were going perfectly fine when it was a 14-0 run, but they weren't going there in the fourth quarter. And you know, credit to Climax, they play their butts off. They play hard. Ken's got those guys ready to go every night, and they can be a problem for anybody if you let them hang around.
Yeah, it was a 21-16 game at halftime, and then Climax hit a basket, a couple of baskets right after halftime, and you led 22-20, and then St. Phil does go on that 14-0 run with Carter Diswick kind of taking over. He had a key shot for you, and then went on a 6-0 spurt of his own and gave you that 14-0 run, and you're up 36-20 at that point, and things are looking great. 2:35 remaining in the third quarter. And you can warm up the bus, seemingly, at that point. But not the case. St. Phil went cold at that point in the fourth quarter when the fourth quarter started. And you went scoreless for most of the fourth quarter and didn't hit a basket till 1:17 left in the period. But credit to your guys. They hung on and then persevered and hit the shots in the last 2 minutes that needed to happen for you guys to get the win. So talk about that perseverance and having some experience there.
Yeah, no, great perseverance. We had some trouble with their press. That it was. Credit to them. They put a lot of great ball pressure on us and kind of forced us to the sideline. We were trying to get it to the middle, but their guys seemingly were where they needed to be. They executed their defense well, and we got ourselves into some bad spots. But down the line, we got Jackson Diswick to the free throw line, which is really he's one of our best shooters, if not our best. So we wanted him at the free throw line, and we were able to get him to the free throw line to close it out. He's had a couple great performances down the stretch when it comes to late game free throws, and so he's been really turning into quite a clutch free throw shooter for us, and we love that.
Lincoln Diswick was in foul trouble much of that second half, and that didn't help any. And Climax did cut the lead all the way down to 41-39 with 41 seconds left, and that crowd behind them, and anything could have happened at that point. But like you said, Carter Diswick had a big basket, and Jackson hit some free throws and got the win and got out of there with the win, and that's all that counts. And St. Phil gets back above 500 with that, and you're looking to have a little push now that the holidays are over and put some wins together, and that's going to be the key going forward. Is that right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just keep building up, getting better. I think, like I said, I'm not trying to make an excuse with the holiday layoff, but 16 days is a long time without a game, especially with a defense that is fresh to everybody, even fresh to myself, and so. Just kind of keeping the course, staying the course, building and, getting better each and every day. I mean, even the offense hasn't been running as fluid as it should since the break. And so, getting some consistency in play, that'll help us not having these long layoffs. I mean, I know we got a couple 3-game weeks coming up, and I think that'll help us get the consistency of the games going.
Carter had 24 points for you last night. Jackson had 13, and then the Climax kids came up big when they needed to. They had a nice performance themselves, and they are a young squad. And you know all about that from the past couple of years, having a young team. But Niall Sattler is an up-and-coming player for them. Mm-hmm. He had 13. Maddox Wyman had 9, and Hunter LaSala had 8. And then now you guys kind of go forward here, and you have, like you said, you have some games this week. Talk about the games, the schedule you have for this week.
Yeah, we got Athens on Tuesday at their place. Dylan Juergens, he's a good coach. He's going to have his boys ready. They play hard. They're much improved from last year, and so that'll be a good fight for us. And then we get Calhoun Christian on Friday, and I know that's a rivalry in its own because we co-op with them with several sports, and so. It's another rivalry Friday night for the kids to get up, and so we like that. And I know my buddy Matt, who's coach over there, will have his boys ready to go for that one because, he got us once and he never let me hear the end of that. So, I want to prevent that from happening again.
Well, Calhoun Christian's off to a nice start this year. They had some turnover, but it hasn't hurt them in the win-loss schedule. I think they started out 6-2, so that's maybe can open your guys' eyes a little bit and make sure the guys are focused on that game.
Exactly. They're another opponent that'll be in our district just like Climax. And so, getting a good test with them early in the season and really figuring out what they're about going closer towards that postseason play.
Well, we'll look forward to talking about those games next week when we get back together. St. Phil has a couple of games this week, and Athens and Calhoun Christian, and we'll chat with Coach Kimber about that when we get back together. Thanks a lot for coming in, Coach.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
I was a soldier, then a veteran, a husband, and a father. And with my VA home loan, I'm a homeowner. No down payment required and no PMI. Build your future with the VA home loan. Get what you earn. Visit choose.va.gov.
Not all veterans are eligible for this hyper amount of benefits mentioned here.
WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with Coach Wickman of the Lakeview Spartans. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill. How are we doing today?
We're doing okay.
See, you got your rocking the Lions gear still, even though that's a good fan.
That's right.
That's a good fan.
We have NFL playoffs, even though the Lions aren't in it. We can still hope for next year. So
that's
there's always
true.
Next year. That's what the Lions.
That's the Lions logo, right? Our motto,
year.
I should say.
There's always next year.
Yeah.
Lakeview Spartans had a couple games this week. You had a game, a non-conference play on early in the week. You played Schoolcraft and you fell short 64-36. Nolan Porter had 10 points for you in that game. Josiah Wanzer had 9. Talk about how that game maybe got away from you a little bit early.
Well, it didn't necessarily get away from us early as much as it just consistently got away from us. I mean, the first quarter was fairly even. I can't really recall. We were down maybe 5 at the end of the quarter, and we were hanging in there playing well. But they just have they got some bodies, man. They got some big kids, and they have I don't know he's probably 6'7", 6'8". He's a big kid and he's strong, and we just didn't have an answer for him at all. And he went to the foul line over and over and over. And I think the biggest disappointment from Tuesday was the way we played defense was not indicative of the way we practiced defense. And I think our kids were really, I hate to use this word, but I think they were embarrassed the way we defended. And so every bad story has a good side to it, right? So we really worked hard in practice on Wednesday. We had really good practices Wednesday and Thursday. And, you could sense that those guys were really frustrated with how they played on Tuesday.
Well, it's been a little bit of a theme this morning. That game on Tuesday was coming off a long break for you. A long break. A lot of the city teams had that big break, and now that the MSSA has kind of adjusted the boys' basketball schedule, you have that longer break and a little rust maybe in that game for the Spartans there.
Because we played we played the Friday, not the Friday before that, but the Friday before that. So, we only had a week off. I think, I don't know, everybody has the same schedule, Bill. Like,
That's right. Schoolcraft,
right? Schoolcraft probably had some time off too. So to use that as a crutch, I'm not buying that. I just think we weren't super focused on the defensive end, and then of course we just we've all year long we've struggled to score a whole lot of points, so we have to play good defense. And so if you don't play good defense and you're also not scoring, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that is not a good equation.
You don't want to write that up on the chalkboard.
No,
that's not a goal for that game.
No.
But Lakeview bounced back on Friday, and like you said, after a couple of good practices, you saw a little bit better performance and came away with a win. Lakeview beat Matawan 54-52. That game kind of go to the end. Talk us through the final moments of that one.
Oh yeah, it went all the way to the end.
They're not playing anymore.
They had the last shot. Yeah, I didn't mean that. But no, they had the last shot and missed it. We played pretty good defense on it. It was like a 2-4 6-point game the entire way. They were up a little bit earlier on, and we had a nice third quarter, took over the lead. I think we went I want to say 15-4 or 15-6 in the third quarter, outscored them, and so we played the whole fourth quarter with the lead. And we did a great job in the fourth quarter of knocking down free throws, which has kind of been a bugaboo for us this year. But we made 10 out of 16 in the fourth quarter. In that, 2 or probably 6 of those were in the last minute or so. So we did some things better last night than we've done so far this year, and that allowed us to sneak out of our gym with a win. And we're happy as all as can be is to come out with being able to win a game like that and having to make some clutch plays down the stretch shows you that your team is growing, and that's what we're looking for.
Well, it's a quality win. It's a quality win for you. I mean, Matawan came into that game 5-2, and you guys came away with a win, and that shows some progress for you. Tay Newton had 13 points for you. Landon Gordon had 11. Nolan Porter and Isaiah McFerrin each had 10. And that win only gets you to 3-7, but it gives you some momentum going forward. And that's the biggest thing this time of year, getting a win over a good team and hoping to use that going forward, right?
Yeah, we're hoping to use this as a springboard to continue. When you lose more than you win, that gets stuck in people's heads sometimes, and we have to keep our eyes on the idea of the process of getting better and getting better and getting better. And I think our guys are doing a pretty good job of that. You mentioned Josiah Wanzer. We brought him up from the JV team, and he gives us a presence inside. He's probably about 6'3", good, solid kid. We were doing kind of the fifth quarter thing with him, but then we had another kid go down last week. So we just said, you're with us for good now. And he's been a nice presence. Tuesday he scored, I think you said 9 or whatever. And then last night he had 4 blocks and 7 rebounds. And so just that size presence and the idea that, okay, now the other team has to honor the fact that we will throw the ball on the block to this young man. and if you don't guard him, he'll score, and so that's been good. I think that's helped us a lot. And then just grinding away at details on defense.
And the fact that you guys did put some points on the board, like you said, you struggled to get over that 50-point mark several times this year, but you did that last night, and that's a good thing to see. What was working a little bit better for you on the offensive side of it?
Well, when you look at our box score, you got 4 guys in double figures and another guy with, I think, 8 or 9. I think you automatically say balance, right? I think the balance of our scoring, so nobody, you can't key on one guy or 2 guys. Everybody was eating last night, as they say, right? So the fact that we were balanced, and I think we settled less for we talk a lot about pass up your second or third best shot for somebody else's best shot, right? And don't settle for shots just because you've been playing offense for a while and you're tired or you're frustrated or whatever. Keep working, keep working to get a better shot. And I thought we did a lot better job last night of not settling for just any shot, but trying to get the shots that we wanted. And I think obviously we shot, 22 free throws last night. So obviously we were attacking the glass or attacking the paint and getting inside and getting fouled. And, when you make 10 out of 16 free throws in the fourth quarter, that's pretty damn good. That's pretty good. And that's how we won the game, in all honesty. I think we only made one field goal in the fourth quarter.
Well, that's a good way of getting in the hole, pushing it against them, taking it to them, and that way you get the free throw line and make those things happen.
Yeah.
Get those freebies there. Staying at home this week, you have a couple of home games, Portage Northern on Tuesday, and then the rivalry game against Battle Creek Central at home on Friday. Playing a couple games at home, that's got to feel good, right?
Yeah, it's nice. We started out at home our first 3 games, and we were on the road since then, and then to come back last night and play at home and then have 2 more this next week it's always I don't care what anybody says, it's way better to play at home than it is to play on the road. And you don't have to get on the bus, you don't have to worry about the different we went to Schoolcraft Tuesday, we didn't even know where to go in the door. We ended up walking around. Luckily it wasn't cold out that night, but we walked probably 100 yards to get to the entrance, and that's our fault. But those types of things, right, that you can't control. At home, you can control a lot more things, and it's just nice to have that comfort level.
And what do we know about Portage Northern so far? That's the first game up.
They're tough. I mean, everybody that we play is pretty tough. We just our league is tough. They've got a really nice guard that's a left-handed shooter that can, he gets up. I saw him this summer a little bit at a prospect camp at Albion College. He's a really nice player. And then they have a big football type kid that it seems like they always have, who can cause you some problems. So we'll have our work cut out for us with them on Tuesday. And again, we just need to make sure we come into practice ready to get better each day, and and then be able to on those nights where we're at home and comfortable, let's go see what happens.
And then on Friday, it'll be a lot of fun with the 2 city schools, the 2 biggest schools in our area. Lakeview hosting Battle Creek Central, and that'll be a lot of fun. It's always a great atmosphere, right?
Yeah, those are the nights where, you kind of look around and you generally, the way our gym is set up, there's the track above, and generally Battle Creek and Lakeview, that game is, people standing on the railing up there because the stands are full and there's not a lot of seats left. So those are exciting nights. Those are fun. The kids, have a great time with obviously it's more fun to have a lot of people in the stands. And we had a pretty decent crowd last night, so that was good too. So yeah, Friday obviously is one of those things, one of the ones you circle on the calendar at the beginning of the year.
That'll be a lot of fun to talk about next week, and may the best team win, and we'll talk about that game next week when we get back together, Coach. Thanks a lot for coming in.
All right, thanks, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our next coach of the morning, Coach Durant Crum of the Battle Creek Central Bearcats. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
We have Battle Creek Central playing a pair of games this week. On Tuesday night, they played in our Battle Creek Enquirer game of the night. Battle Creek Central hosted city rival Harper Creek. Battle Creek Central started fast and then kept it going and came away with a 68-43 win in that city rivalry game. The key to that game was that nice start. You jumped out to a 15-3 lead, and your sophomore Lee Campbell Jr. was a big part of that. Talk about getting off to a big start in a rivalry game, especially coming off the holidays, how important that was.
Oh, that's real important, and it was a real benefit for us that night. Yep, the holidays and all the distractions and all the chopped up practices and things like that. It was good to be able to start out, get out of the gate early, which we were able to do, and then able to kind of maintain. I think that kind of jump-started us, and we were able to feed off of our early success.
And you guys had that lead, that and you kept growing in that lead. You were up 29-17 midway through the second quarter, and Campbell Jr. had 17 of your first 29 points, and that was a game where he didn't even start the game because but once he got on the floor, he made up for lost time and got things rolling for himself. And when your offense is rolling, it's usually running through him, and things are going well, and it was going well that night, right?
Yeah. Campbell's been our catalyst, especially on the offensive end. I mean, he's a sophomore. He's young. He's still learning, but he's really, really aggressive. He attacks the basket well, and he's been our main guy offensively. So once again, against Harper, he was doing what we've become a little accustomed to him doing. So it was working for him and working for us.
Yeah, I know he likes to shoot a little bit of the three, but a lot of his shots are coming off the drive, and he's off balance a little bit, but he can hit those shots where he's kind of off balance and putting a little English on the ball off the glass and getting that in, and that's just natural ability. That's just stuff that he learns in the off season, and he can get those kind of shots, even though he's on the little bit smaller side. He can get those kind of shots anytime he really wants them, right?
Yeah, he's pretty tough off the dribble. He's got decent speed. I think the one thing that helps him in those situations is he's got physicality. He plays pretty physical for his size, so he absorbs some of that contact when he goes in inside and down low and is able to finish. So, yeah, that's one of the things he does best.
And the confidence and aggressive. And you mentioned that Tuesday night, the confidence to go in there. Mm-hmm. Even though there's some bigger guys there, he has that confidence to go in there, and it doesn't matter if he's going to get fouled or not. He's going to get the ball up and get those baskets, and that's a big thing for you guys to lean on, and the other guys can play off him. Your freshman guard, Damani Spraggins, had 18, and then your freshman forward, Braylon McCoy, had 9, and again, it's the young kids getting a job done for you, and that's been happening a lot for you. And those young kids are maturing a little bit, but they're still young, but they're still getting the job done for you. That's got to be exciting to see for you guys.
Yeah, we're real pleased. Outside of Campbell, Spraggins is playing, really good for a first-year varsity player, a freshman, and he's running the point for us. So he's got a lot to handle, being at the point, trying to get us into our offense, and he's actually scoring from that position pretty well. So, yeah, we're definitely pleased with that. Braylon McCoy. There's another kid that's physical for his size and his age, and I think he's mainly a football player, but he's doing a lot of good things for us on the basketball court as well.
Well, that victory sent you guys to 5-3 on the season, and those 5 wins were more than you had all of last year. And so talk about that a little bit. That's a confidence booster in itself, and it tells you guys and it tells your team that you guys are heading in the right direction. Is that right?
Well, we believe so. We believe so, Bill. We've talked at the beginning of the season about the journey, the process. It's going to take some time to get this young group to gel and have some good chemistry, but we're trying to get better each day. We realize that it won't happen overnight. But we're pretty pleased with the fact that we've been as successful as we've been early on in this season, and we're going to hope that we can just keep working and improving.
Well, that young team ran up against one of the better teams in the state, and that's going to be a lot to ask for your young kids to do that. And they played Kalamazoo Central last night, and you guys lost that one 72-34. And Kalamazoo Central is ranked in the state by the Detroit Free Press, and they're loaded. They have 2 Division I players on their squad, and who are being recruited at the Division I level. And they're 6-1, and they play a loaded schedule. So being 6-1 themselves is impressive. Talk about the challenge of a young team coming in and playing a Kalamazoo Central team that has all that talent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, experience, size, all of that weighed in heavy last night. I think for our guys, K Central knew that we were young. They came with all kind of pressure, which they typically do, and pressure that when you're just coming out of the 8th grade and playing on the varsity level, you haven't seen it yet. We talk about it. We try to. I mean, we're fairly quick ourselves, and we try to get a look and a feel for how the pace will be in practice. But until you get out on the floor, you really don't know. And I think some of that caught our guys off balance, off guard, and just the physicality of K Central was a lot for our young guys to handle and adjust to.
Damani Spraggins had 13 points for you again, so another good performance from your point guard there, despite being a freshman and in that atmosphere, and that's nice. And the guys, it's a challenge to play a team like that, but I think I get the attitude that you guys have a chip on your shoulder, and they wanted to play against some good talent because they want to measure themselves a little bit and see where they stand. Did you get that take also?
Well, don't get me wrong. Our young guys, they went into the game feeling like that it was a game that they could win, and they played really hard. But, yeah, definitely a measuring stick, I think, as the game went on. Kalamazoo kind of wore us down and just kind of helped the guys realize that there's another level that we have yet to get to, and we have to keep working.
Broderick Central will be back on the floor next week. We got that big game against Lakeview next Friday to look forward to, and we'll talk about that game next week. Coach, thanks for coming on down here.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
That's it for Coach's Corner for this week. We'll be back next Saturday on WBCK 95.3 FM.